Okay, it's time to start. So, welcome everybody. I'm going to be doing a presentation about improving software quality with retrospectives. This is not going to be a talk about retrospectives, although there's some stuff in there if you're not familiar with them. The main focus is going to be on activities that can help you to deliver better quality products in your organization, to deliver better quality products to your customers. So that's what the focus is going to be about in this talk. So a little bit about me. I'm working as a trainer, coach. I'm also developing more and more products which are available on my website for agile coaches, test leads, test managers, everybody around the world, if they want to do improvements into their organization. I call them agile coaching tools, but it's a broad sense of tools which are there. I also published a couple of books. One of them is actually on Agile Retrospectives, and it is also available in Russian if you're interested, and you can actually get it with a discount right now on my website, in my web shop if you're interested. So there is a Russian edition of the book. So first check on Agile Retrospectives. Please raise your hand if you're familiar with Agile Retrospectives. Okay, I see about half of the hands going up. That's quite good. For those not familiar with retrospectives yet, I think retrospectives became popular when Agile started to become popular, when the Agile Manifesto came out in 2001. The Scrum framework was there, which actually described Agile retrospectives as a mechanism to reflect at the end of a sprint, to see how you are doing as a team, and to learn from that and to do continuous improvement in there. Retrospectives have been there before. They were there also actually in project management methods, so it's not a new concept. The new thing, however, is that Agile brings retrospectives to the teams. So it's actually giving the teams a tool to self-reflect, to see how they are doing, and to improve their way of working. And this fits in with self-organizing teams who are responsible for their own way of working and who also want to improve this way of working. And this goes back again to that there's no first time right. It's not possible to prevent failure from the start. It's not possible to do it perfect the first time. It's probably not even going to be possible to do it perfect the second time. So you're going to need some kind of mechanism to learn, to reflect, and to improve your way of working and to do continuous improvement in there. And this is where retrospectives fit in. I think the main thing to remember, if you're not familiar yet with retrospectives, is that they also provide a kind of safe space for teams to reflect and learn. So it's a safe space where people can openly discuss how things are going, learn from that, and decide to take action. It's a tool really for the teams. If you look at retrospectives and look how you can use them for quality, then there's a couple of techniques that I use in the retrospectives when I work with teams or when I teach retrospectives to teams, if you want to be focused on improving quality. These are the mechanisms that I'm going to be talking about. It's going to be root cause analysis, so digging into problems, finding the root causes and solving them. Future perspectives, putting yourself in the future, reflecting back afterwards on how you got to the best product ever and see what you can learn out of that. Doing a kind of agile self-assessment focused on quality practices to see how you are doing and finding ways to improve it. And a technique which I called stop the line, which is borrowed from the Lean area and Toyota production system. Again, these are techniques that you can do in a retrospective. You can also do them outside retrospective. So if there's an occasion, if you just want to plan a meeting with your project team to use this kind of techniques, that is perfectly possible. So let's dive in the first technique, root cause analysis. And the basic idea behind this technique is to find the initiating causes of problems. And what do I mean with initiating causes or root causes? Well, this is digging so deep into the problem that you find those causes that are actually the trigger of the problem. And that means you probably have to go 3 or 4 or 5 levels deep, maybe even deeper, when you end up at the causes which really have to do with why these problems are happening in your organization. To give you some kind of idea, usually this is not processes. Usually this is not tools. These causes have to do with people. These causes have to do with how you're working together with a team. These causes often have to do with communication. They have to do with skills. So this is a kind of level where you have to get out and find what are really the causes for a problem in your organization. And one of the methods that you can use is 5 times why exercise, and again this is not limited to 5, it can be 6 or 7 times why. But the idea behind this exercise is to keep on asking why in different formats until you really get to those initiating causes of problems. And once you understand these initiating causes, then you can think about, okay, how can we fix them to prevent similar problems from happening in the future? When would you do a root cause analysis? Well, there's a couple of reasons, a couple of situations where I prefer to do them. One of them will be if you have a major defect. It can either be a defect that's been found in testing, it can be a major defect which has been reported by your customers. But if you really have a major problem, then it could be something to investigate and to see what happened, what caused this problem, and what can you do to prevent similar problems in the future. Another thing could be a significant disturbance, and this is the kind of problems where everybody in the organization would say, this is something that we don't want to happen again. We don't want to have a similar situation again. So it's worth investing time to understanding what happened and to do something to prevent us something similar will happen next time. Again, it's something similar. You're not looking for something to prevent the same problem. That would be too limiting. You're looking at something similar, preventing similar problems in the future. A third reason would be if you have reoccurring problems. So the same problem coming back and back again. And when you tried to solve this problem already, you took some actions, but for some reason it's not working out. And usually it's not working out because you're not really at the root causes of the problem. You're not digging deep enough, and if you're not digging deep enough, you're not going to be preventing the issue. You're just doing some superficial work, but you're not solving the real problem in there. I've drawn a cause-effect chart in here. This is one of the methods I prefer to do root cause analysis. I don't like Ishikawa diagrams, where you just collect some causes and some reasons that you think will lead to effects. I want to do root cause analysis really based on data. So if I do a root cause analysis with teams and I ask the teams what caused this problem, I don't want them to guess. I don't want them to think about possible causes, but I want them to come up with the real reason that caused this. And usually there's a combination of reasons. There's a combination of causes. And I want them to dig deep enough into the problem to find this combination of causes and how this is related to the effect. Because you really want to understand the situation. This is not superficial like, oh, well, I think this was the reason. No, you need real data to do this. So, some of the success factors for doing root cause analysis, and again, this is not only for a retrospective, this is in general when you do root cause analysis in there. I think it's important to do some kind of cost-benefit analysis before you start doing the root cause analysis or as a first step of your root cause analysis. And this is actually pretty easy in most of the situations. In most of the root cause analysis that I've done with teams, you can do this in a couple of minutes. You start asking, what was the problem and what did we lose due to this problem? Okay, the system was down for an hour. Okay, how much business did we lose? How much money did it cost us when customers are not able to use the system for an hour? If you're running a commercial business, that's pretty easy to calculate how much loss that will be. You know what your revenue would be in your organization, so you know how much money that would cost. If people can't do their work, you can look at stuff like salaries. Okay, how much money did it cost us when people cannot do their work for an hour? So looking at the loss that you had is a first indication whether it's important enough to investigate this problem. And then the other thing would be to do some guessing like, okay, if we would like to prevent a problem like this, how much money would we need to invest, how much time in the actions that we need to take in the organization to prevent it happening for a second time. Also, this is usually easy to guess. You don't need exact precision in there, but you can have some idea about how much that will be. And once you have these two figures, then you can take a decision whether it's either worthwhile to analyze this or not. And believe me, I had people coming into a root cause analysis with a problem, and when we discussed the loss, then they said, well, we actually lost 5 minutes, it wasn't that a big problem. Okay, so why are we investigating this? Spend your time, spend your money on the really important problems. Focus on the ones where you had a big loss and where you really want to take some action in there. That's also what I stated there with just enough root cause analysis sessions. Don't do too many, do the ones which are really important, and also look at the amount of actions that are coming out of your root cause analysis sessions, because there's a limit to how much things that you can do in your organization. There's a limit how much actions you can take. These are things that people need to do next to their normal work. So you don't have a lot of time to do stuff in your organization. People are busy already. You want to really be focused on the major stuff in there. And that's where you want to focus your root cause analysis on the ones which are most beneficial for your organization. Another advice I like to give is to have a good facilitator for your root cause analysis sessions. And what I usually do when I act as a facilitator, I team up with some of the senior technical people in the organization to do this together. Because I don't have the technical insight into the problem, so I don't know whether something would be worthwhile to dig deeper on or not, if we would really be getting to root cause or not. That is something where the technical people can help me. But as a facilitator, I know the technique, but I can also read the situation in the room. I can see how people are responding. I can see how people are reacting on the stuff that's happening in there. And let me give you an example on that. I did a root cause analysis with a team, and we were discussing actually problems that they brought into a training session to see what were the root causes in there. And we were collectively drawing the diagram, the root cause effect diagram, to see where we were. And at some point in time, I asked them like, okay, why was this happening? And everybody in the room became silent. And then I looked at the group and said, okay, so there can be two situations here. Either you're all silent because we've hit the root cause already, so we have to go one step back and we're there, or we're going to be hitting on something if you speak up. And actually, the manager of this team was in the room. He was there together with the team doing this session. And the manager spoke up and said, okay, I think there's a problem here. If I'm blocking the solution, I'm willing to walk out of the room because I think it's important to know what's happening in here. So if I'm blocking this, I will walk out, you can continue the session, explore, and see what's happening in there. And then one of the team members spoke up and said, well, actually you can stay here, but the problem was that we wanted to get some training on something and you declined it. You said that we couldn't do that. And the manager said, yeah, I recognize the situation. And yeah, I mentioned that we couldn't do the training because we were limited on budget. But seeing right now how declining this training has led up to the problem that we had, I have to reconsider this. And we're still not having tons of money, so I can't promise you that I can do this training. But now, understanding the situation, I can see what I can do, and I can see if I can get the training for you. Me, as a facilitator, sensing the situation, giving it back to the team, helped to go one level deeper and to stumble on the real root cause, why this training was not given and what we could do with that. So this is where a good facilitator is very important if you want to do root cause analysis. The last step, trivial but nevertheless very important, communicate the actions. I still see root cause analysis sessions where people really write down everything in a big report, put all the diagrams in there, go very deep and put in a lot of text on what they found and what the problem is, and then they hide the report away, or they report it to management like, okay, this is a problem and now we're done. No, you're not done. The real work starts after the root cause analysis session. The real work starts by taking the actions that you agreed after understanding the problem and understanding the root causes. So make sure that you communicate these actions. Publish them. If you're a Scrum team, put them on your Scrum board. Make them visible for everyone. Put them out there so that the world can see what you're going to be doing in there. This is really important to get actions done in the organization. Okay, so that was the first exercise, root cause analysis you can do in a retrospective. And let's dive into a second one. And I've called this one the awesome product futurespectives. And just a quick check, is any of you familiar with futurespectives? I see a hand going up a little bit. Futurespectives is a technique, I'm not sure where it came from, but it's becoming more and more used in retrospective. It's a technique where you put yourself in the future, imagine that you are in the future, looking at the situation to see how you can solve that problem, not looking at where you are right now, but where you would like to be. So that's a different approach that you can take in a futurespective. And you can apply this also if you want to improve the quality of the products in your organization. The starting point would be to imagine that you just delivered the most awesome product ever to your customers. All of your customers are very happy. There's 0 defects. Product is working 24/7, no outages, no problems whatsoever. This is really the best product that you ever created in your organization. It's out there, customers are using it. This is really great stuff. You've been able to do this. So imagine this as a team, that this is something that you have been able to accomplish and that you are there right now, and celebrate it. Take some food, maybe take a drink, give each other a tap on the back like, this is great work that we did, guys, in there. Really get into this celebration mood that you are able to deliver the most awesome product ever. And now, and you're still in the future, imagine what you did to get there. What did you do as a team to deliver this product? How did you work together? What tools did you use? How did you develop your software? How did you test it? Whatever worked for you, whatever you tried, what did you do to create this most awesome product ever? And discuss it. And here you can use different techniques. You can draw it, you can use sticky notes, you can shout it out and put it on the board. Whatever works for you, but get that shared image out on the board and get that feeling on, okay, what did we do to get there? Once you got a clear picture of this, now it's time to go back to the present and to look at this and say, okay, what can we do to get from where we are right now to where we would like to be able to deliver these kind of awesome products to our customers? What are the steps that we can take? And there might be a big distance between that, depending on where you are in your organization. So think about the first steps that you can take. Don't think about trying to solve the whole problem in once. That's probably going to be too much. But think about the first steps that you can take, moving into the right direction in there. To give you an example, I did a futurespective once with the team, and we celebrated like, okay, we did the best job ever. And then I asked the question, okay, how did you get here? What did you do to deliver this product? And then one team member said, well, that was actually pretty easy. We just switched out our egos. We just put down our egos and we just started working together as a team instead of trying to be the best programmer and competing with my colleagues. And that was actually an eye-opener for the team, because there was a couple of senior programmers in the team and they were all doing a very good job, but they were doing their job individually and they were more or less competing with each other on who was the best programmer in there. But that was not helping them to create great products. What would help them to create that great product was what they just imagined being in the future, is working together and switch out their egos. And when they went back to the present and started discussing, okay, how can we do that? Because this is not a simple switch like, okay, now I don't have an ego anymore. But they said, okay, well, the first step has actually been taken already, because we became aware that we are ego-driven as a team. And we became aware that being driven by our ego is blocking this. So let's just agree about a signal if somebody is really driving on his ego to do that. So either raise your hand or say, hey, you're ego tripping, but let's agree that we make this something that we would like to discuss in our team, because it's blocking us to do a great job. And we don't want to do that. We want to work together as a team. So by being in the future and getting rid of all the things that were blocking them, they were able to explore what was blocking them in the present to get to a better state. And that's the idea behind these kind of future perspectives. So how do they work? Basically, the idea behind the future perspective is that it's a positive technique. It's based on techniques from positive psychology. So you're not looking at problems, you're not looking at the present, you're completely ignoring initially where you are right now, because it is not important. You want to look at the solution. You want to look on what would be a great way to do this. And once you understand the solution, taking steps towards the solution becomes a lot easier. So this is why this is a really positive technique. It's also liberating, because for a moment in time when you are in the future, you don't need to worry about the problems in the present. You don't need to worry about what's there right now. You can freely think about what would really be the best solution, regardless whether that would work or not. This is a kind of brainstorming technique, like, okay, we can come up with any idea. Later we will check whether these ideas are valid or not, but right now we just want to hear solutions. We just want to hear ideas and see how that would work out. So it's a different way of thinking that you would use in a future perspective. And what I've seen, it can be a very empowering way to do this. Again, you can also do this outside of retrospective. You can just plan a future perspective meeting. I've seen teams doing this on their first day when they took off. Imagine that they were half a year or a year from now, and then thinking about, okay, this is what we would like to be. How can we get there? What are the steps that make most sense? One last thing, if you look at the present, there's usually tons of problems. And often it can be difficult to decide which one to solve. This is where a future perspective can help you, because if you understand where you want to be, then you might see that some of the problems you don't need to solve. And you might see that some of the other problems are the ones where you really need to focus on, because those are the most important ones that are blocking you to get where you would like to go. So a future perspective can again be liberating in that you don't need to do everything. Another technique that you can use, again in your retrospectives, outside your retrospectives, is self-assessments. And then the self-assessment will be focused on the way that you do quality in your team, the way that you're doing quality practices in there. And a technique that I often use is based on the Agile Self-assessment Game, which is a card game that teams can use to see how they are doing right now. There's different playing techniques which are available with this Agile Self-assessment Game, and one technique that you can use to do a quality assessment would be a kind of health check. A health check would be a radar chart where you would pick a couple of topics related to quality and then do a scoring in your team on a scale from 1 to 5 on how well are you doing this practice? How well is this practice working out for you? And the interesting thing is often in where people are giving different scores. Where everybody is saying like it's a 2 or it's a 3, then you might agree, okay, and we might want to lift it to a 5. But if you get on practices where one person says, well, I think it's a 1, we really suck on this, and somebody else says, well, I actually think it's a 4 or 5. We're doing very good on this. Okay, let's share, let's discuss this, let's see where we can learn from each other. So this kind of radar chart focused on quality practices can help you to improve. And this is a technique which can be done by auditing, but you can also do this by kind of self-assessment, by picking those areas, those practices that are important for you. You can either pick from the quality area, but you can also pick practices from Scrum or any other method that you are using to see how they would help you to get to a better quality level. Then the last technique would be what I call a stop-the-line retrospective. And if you do this in a retrospective, then you would gather the team together and you will bring some kind of end into your team. And the end concept comes from Lean and from a total production system where you have a rope at the production line and where anybody working in production is allowed, actually encouraged, to pull the rope if there's a major problem, and to stop production and to solve this, to solve the problem before you continue. So instead of ignoring it, hoping that it will go away, it won't. Stop production, solve the problem, then continue. So in this exercise you will bring a kind of end. It can be a rope, it can be a bell, it can be a big alarm which makes a lot of noise, but you bring in any object that the team can use to signal a major problem and put it out there in front of a team in the middle of a table. And then just ask your team, okay, if you know any major problem, step up, bring the bell, and then we start discussing it. So you're giving them actually the power to stop their work and to discuss the problem, see what's happening in there, and decide on what they want to do with this. This is a simple exercise. The power of this exercise is that you're actually asking the team to stop and to think about stuff. So it's more the retrospective environment that is helping you here, that this is a really advanced technique. But what you actually would like to get to is a stop-the-line culture. This is not something that you want to do 1 time or 2 times in your retrospective. You want to get into a culture where people are allowed to interrupt work if they think if there's really a major problem. So you don't want to have this bell or this rope into your retrospective room. You want to have it into your working room. You want to have it next to your Scrum board. So that at any point in time, anybody can stop up and say, okay, we need to stop right now because we're ignoring something which is important. Actually, Scrum has a similar mechanism built in, which is your daily stand-up, which gives you the opportunity to do this. Lean takes it 1 step further and says, well, you can do this anytime. You don't have to wait until your daily stand-up. At any time where you think we have a major issue and we should work on this, stop the team, reflect, and learn. And you're giving power to the team to really take control of their own culture, of their own destination, and you're allowing them to invest time in understanding the problem. And believe me, in many situations I've seen, once you understand the problem, the solution is quite easy. So spending 80% or 90% on really understanding the problem is worthwhile. Once you really understand it, it's often not that difficult to find a solution for that. So don't jump to solutions too quickly. Advice I'd like to give to facilitators. So we've explored 4 different exercises that you can use in your retrospective, also outside your retrospective. Use the root cause analysis to explore major problems. Put yourself in the future with the future perspective. You'll develop the biggest, greatest product ever. How did you get there? Assess how you are doing. with the Agile Self-assessment Game, with the Agile coaching cards which are in there, or use a stop the line exercise or a stop the line practice to stop when there's a major problem and to learn from that. There's a blog post in there. The slides are actually published on SlideShare already. I noticed it's a little bit difficult to get on SlideShare here in Russia. If you want the slides, send me an email and I can send them to you, because there's a lot of links in there also with more information about these exercises and how to do them. And the link on this slide is actually collecting all the stuff together. So a little bonus about retrospectives. If you want to start doing retrospectives with your teams, focus on the why over how. Focus on first understanding why you're doing activities in your team. Focus why you're doing the work instead of how you're doing it. First, find out what really matters in there. Get a good facilitator for your retrospective. I spoke about this already in root cause analysis. The same is true for your retrospective. You need somebody who is sensing what's happening in the room. Your retrospective is not, the facilitator is not the problem solver. The team is the problem solver. The facilitator is creating the environment for the team to solve it. So get a good facilitator, independent facilitator who will help the team to find a solution. Use an exercise. There's dozens of exercises out there that you can use in retrospective, different kind of exercise. We just offer quality. There's hundreds more that you can do. Pick an exercise that will help you in your retrospective. Go beyond the what went well, what can be improved. That's just one of the thousands which are there. And pick one that will help you to find the right solutions in there. Focus on small stuff, small steps for continuous improvement, and what I call do the vital few actions. Don't try to get a big list of actions out of there. Don't create a backlog with actions. Get just one or two major actions out of your retrospective. Do them, and then do another retrospective to find new actions. Make sure that your actions get done. If your actions don't get done, that's the first thing to explore in your retrospective, to find out why your actions are not getting done, because then you're not improving. Okay, I think we're at the point for questions right now. So let's see if we have some questions in Slido. If you didn't answer them yet, use Slido to put in questions, and I can answer them.
Да, у нас есть вопросы, заданы на русском языке. Сейчас вам принесут. Да, друзья, кто может задать на английском языке вопрос?
Friends, if you can ask your questions in English, you can write them on Slido. If not, otherwise you can ask them in Russian, and they will be translated. Так, сейчас мы.
Okay, that's an interesting one. What if the problem is managing the team? So what if this is the problem to quality? Well, I think if you find out this problem, I think this was something that, first of all, would worry the team, but it also would worry the manager. Depending on the culture that you have in your organization, if it's possible to solve it together with your manager to really create enough safety to discuss this, that would be the best way. What I see in a lot of organizations is that initially, if the manager is there in the room, if the manager is present, it's going to be difficult to discuss these kind of problems in your retrospective, regardless whether it's quality or whether it's any other issue. So if that is the case, I usually ask the manager to step back and to stay out of the room for just a couple of retrospectives, to give the team space to discuss this and to think about how to solve the problem. And once the team finds some ideas and finds itself strong enough to do it, then start discussing this with your manager. This is also where, again, a good facilitator can help, because they can make this discussion with the manager easier. They can help on how to bring the information to the manager, how to work together. Start off small, don't try to solve every problem. Start off solving one or two problems and get into the mood of solving problems more frequently. Okay.
А следующий вопрос, что делать, если проблема в управлении?
The next question is, what do we do if there is no management at all?
What do you do if there's no management at all? Well, I think you're in a lucky situation. If there's no management at all, you can self-manage. If there's no management at all, you can take decisions. And this is again a matter of feeling empowered in the organization. It's setting a culture where you say, if nobody says that it's not allowed, then we're going to do it. And it can be daring initially, and you probably need somebody to facilitate this kind of behavior change in your organization, because if you start doing it in a team, you might run the risk of bumping into your managers in your organization. So you probably need some kind of coaching in your organization which will also help the manager in there. But I would actually see it as an advantage. If there's no management, okay, start managing yourself, take control, start doing stuff. Because if you start taking control and you show results, chances are that you're allowed to continue with this. If your manager see that this is working out, why would they stop you? It's working.
Как отключить?
How can we address egoism in a team? How do we motivate people to work positively? Who has the responsibility to do so?
Okay, I'm trying to get this question. How can we address positive in teams, and who has the responsibility to do this? Is that the question? Looking at the translator?
Yes, who is responsible for positively motivating people? That was part of the question.
Okay. Who is responsible for motivating the team? Well, basically, it is the team itself, and this is where I'm very strict upon. In essence, you can't really motivate people. People can only motivate themselves. What you can do in an organization is you can create an environment where people feel motivated, where they feel free enough to do stuff, and where they will pull out motivation to do things in there. But you can't really motivate people to do something in there. So it's up to the team to self-motivate themselves. If you look at Scrum teams, there's a lot of expectation on the Scrum Master to help this kind of behavior in teams to take off in there. And I think if you have a Scrum Master who has the right skills in there, so we're not talking about management skills, we're talking about people skills, now this is something that the Scrum Master can help to facilitate, or that a coach, HR coach, can help to facilitate. But in the end, it is up to the team whether they want to do this or not. It's like changing a light bulb. How difficult is it to change a light bulb? How many people do you need to change a light bulb? One, if the light bulb wants to be changed. If it doesn't want to be changed, you can bring in hundreds of people, it's not going to happen. Okay, what additional roles do you think should be properly added to the team? Well, I think this is actually something for the team to discuss when they start working in there. If a newly team is formed and they look at the work that will need to be done to get the result, then they can also look at the roles. They can look at more, not really the roles, preferably the skills. What do they need to do this? What do they need to get the work done? And they might be focused initially on the technical skills that they would need, design skills, analysis skills, testing skills. But let's also look about the skills that you need to do some kind of team building. Once you have some idea on what kind of skills that you need, you can look at, okay, who do we have in the team who has these skills? And do we need to put them into roles? Or can we just use these skills because they are present in the team? Can we just use these skills because we have people who have these skills? And there's actually exercise that you can use to find this out and to see what skills you have, and what skills you would need, or what skills you would need to develop, and find out what are the most critical skills that you would need in your team. But start from the result that you would like to accomplish, discuss as a team what you need, and then explore what you have already and what you would need to develop or what you would need to acquire.
How can we incentivize the spirit in which people, in fact, stand up, raise their hand, and say, okay, we have a problem?
Okay, how can we incentivize the spirit where people would stand up and say we have a problem. The most important concept in there is safety. People should feel safe enough to raise their hand. And there's a couple of things you can actually do with that. If I look at retrospectives, you can actually do a kind of safety check at the start of your retrospective. You can do the same in your stand-up meeting, by simply asking people how safe they feel right now to raise their hand if there's a problem or not. And you can do it anonymously. You can actually ask them just to put a figure from 1 to 5 on a piece of paper, where 1 would say, well, I don't feel safe at all, I'll rather be somewhere else, and I'm for sure not going to raise my hand if there's a problem. And a 2, well, I might. 3, yeah, I will. Up to a 5, like, yeah, I don't even need this meeting. If there's a problem, I'm going to interrupt people all of the time. If you do this safety check, and if I do this as a facilitator, I will actually give the figures anonymously back to the team. So I will tell the team, like, okay, this is how you feel right now, team. This is your safety level. And if there's a couple or 1 or 2s in there, then that will be something to discuss. And actually bringing out this discussion in a lot of situations will be helpful already, because if there's 3 or 4 or even 5s in there in your team, then those people will probably speak up. They feel safe. So they will speak up and they will say, well, hey, I'm a bit surprised because I feel safe enough. Why don't you feel safe? And what is the thing that we can do to make you feel safe in this team? What are the kind of actions that we should take? So bringing up the subject of safety, and a safety check like this will be a first way to do this, can already be a first tool to do this. The most important thing to incentivize this is to really have a culture also as a manager where you allow people to make mistakes, where you allow them to fail, and you're not going to be interrupting or managing them when something goes wrong. Not 1 time, not 2 times, not 10 times, never. And I know this is going to be challenging for managers to do this. I've worked with managers who actually stood in a meeting, saw something happening, and checked afterwards with me like, hey, should I have interrupted this meeting? No. You did the right thing. Trust the team. They're going to find out and they're going to solve it. Trust that they will do it and don't interrupt them. So this is going to be challenging. But in the end, self-organization makes a team a lot stronger. And it also gives you room as a manager to focus on other stuff, instead of having to constantly manage people. Okay. How to motivate a shadow leader to work to improve the product, not for its ambitions. I'm not sure I understand what a shadow leader is.